a lot of it is because people have a goal that they want to hit this year, and it's part of their dream. They've marked it in their head. They know it's something they want to achieve someday. This year feels as good as any, and they haven't broken it down to again, realize whether or not it's attainable or achievable. And then B, they haven't broken it down to understand what activities they need to do to hit it. Hey, everybody. Good morning. It is Thursday this week. And this week we have been going through our Set Your Destination worksheet. We have been looking at our lifetime goals, our 5-year goals. And today we're getting into our 1 year. And as we talk about that and get moving, what I really want to make sure that everybody is looking at and everybody is considering is how can we make sure that this year is going to be a productive year. So as we get moving with that, I just want you to consider a couple of things, and we'll break out the slide deck to look at it. First things first is one of the ways that you can increase your productivity is by joining this group, bemoredaily.com. Jump on, register. The only reason we ask for your registration is to keep out the bots, A, and B, to get you the worksheets that we're going through. We'll get those emailed over to you, and that way you can work with us as we go through this content each day. We start with a little bit of a mentor moment, and that's the material we're going through right now. And then we jump into an accountability moment where we will talk to each other, figure out what the big thing is, the main thing is to do that day, and then make sure that we don't have any obstacles in our way to achieving it. Karen Lamb once said that a year from now, you might wish that you started today. And so I encourage everybody here to join us for the Take 5 A, and then B, to also write down some 1 year goals with us today. And let's get some clarity behind them. And inside of that, that is our Set Your Destination worksheet that we have available. And those that have been on this call with us before, I would love it if you would join with me here. Here we go. We got a quote. So Mike, I know you've been here. Janae, I know you've been here. Y'all have heard this quote from me before. You ready? Let's say it together. Most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year
and underestimate what they can do in 5.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. Like we just looked at our 5-year yesterday, and looking at the 5-year yesterday, we all realized sometimes the reason 5-year gets us a little bit more nervous is because we get those butterflies because we realize it's so close, like it's within reach. We can see 5 years from now. 5 years ago wasn't too far away. 5 years from now feels like it's going to come even faster. And so what does that quote tell us about our 1 year goals? Most people do what? What was the quote again? Most people what?
Underestimate what they can do in a year.
Underestimate what they can do in 5 years and overestimate what they can do in 1.
Right.
Right. So we're for some reason, even though we know 5 years is within reach, like we're selling ourselves short, but we're overreaching for 1, which doesn't make much sense. Right? Like we should be able to know what we can do now in order to achieve this year. So what does that tell us about our 1 year goals? What do you think? Why do people set a goal that most people aren't achieving within 1 year? What do you think is happening inside of our head for that? Anyone?
We overestimate.
Yeah, but why? Like, what do you think's happening up here that causes us to overestimate? I know it's tough, right? Like so many people have said this quote, by the way, Gary Keller and Bill Gates and, Tony Robbins, and like the list goes on and on. I've heard like honestly a dozen different really successful people say this quote. And what's really, really even more interesting is a lot of those people years down the road, have said, I wish I'd made my future goals larger, right? Like, and so I've got a little bit of a guess, and let's see how well this guess works for you. I think a lot of it is because people have a goal that they want to hit this year, and it's part of their dream. they've marked it in their head. They know it's something they want to achieve someday. This year feels as good as any. And they haven't broken it down to again, realize whether or not it's attainable or achievable. And then B, they haven't broken it down to understand what activities they need to do to hit it. And so in that sense, like Gary Keller once said, this is one of my only quotes that I ever give to Gary Keller. And I was with Keller Williams I'm still with Keller Williams. One of the only quotes I use for Gary Keller is, your success is a mathematical certainty. All right. I love this quote by him. And it falls slightly short in my opinion. And so I added my own little section to it, which is, as long as you understand your equation, as long as you understand and work your equation, we can do the math to understand what success looks like. And as long as we are doing the activities and plugging in the variables into the equation to get the success, you can achieve it. And what gets really, really interesting about that, and I've seen this over time, and Michael, I think you've probably got my back on this, is what I've seen over time is that when I have a volume goal that I need to hit and I'm doing the right activities, what ends up happening?
You blow it away.
Yeah, because I'm consistent with it. And as long as I'm consistent, the results are happening. There was a business leader that I was talking to at one point in time that somehow hit their numbers perfectly every single month. You know, they had to have a set number of appointments to get a set number of people to sign up and have a set number of attrition in order to make sure that their numbers were hit. And somehow they hit the exact perfect appointments and the exact number of signups every single month. And I just looked at them and I said, "You're selling yourself short." And they're like, "What do you mean? If I know my goals and if and I'm doing the right activities, then this is what's going to happen." I was like, "No, like that's not the way life works, right? Like if I'm doing the right activities, Michael, you found this out last week, right? If I'm making the right number of calls every single day, some days I'm going to get one appointment set. Some days it'll be two. And the better I get with the right number of calls, like I'm going to start hitting 2 appointments and 3 appointments set more often. And as a result, I'm going to overachieve my goals even in the 1 year, as long as we've set attainable goals. And that's really where this comes from. These are the questions we're going to ask about our 1 year over the next 10 minutes. You ready? So the questions I want to know about your 1 year are these. Is your 1 year goal measurable? When we're looking at the 5 year, when we're looking at the lifetime, I wanted to know that it was clear to you. And I was less concerned about measurable because lifetime goals are a little bit harder to put our fingers on, right? Exactly what your retirement number is. That's going to change as you get closer to retirement. And we've got something that we're going to aim for and work to. And if we need to adjust it, we can. 1 year, I want to make sure you really understand what needs to be measured to hit your 1 year goal. All right. Second, I want to know what you need to do about it this month to hit your 1 year goal. It's November. What do you need to do about it this week? I mean, it's already Thursday this week, so we can pretend it's next week if you want. What do you need to do next week in order to hit it? And then what do you need to do today to hit your 1 year goal? All right. So if we have the right measurements that we can count on, then we can divide that into either, sets of 4 weeks, which is, you're going to divide your 1 year goal by 12 and then divide it by 4 in order to get our month and our week, and then divide it by 5 to get today. If I know there's a vacation coming up, that type of math will give my vacations permission to have a week off, because there are going to be some months with 5 weeks. And as long as I'm doing the right activities, then it all adds up. And so let's talk about them today. And so you all heard some of this from me because I was giving my 1 week and my 1 day goals. Is I've got a goal to finish up my book by the end of the year. And I know how many chapters I still need to write in my book. And so my goal is to write a chapter a week in order to get my, 8 chapters in by the end of the year and be finished writing the book. And that way it can move into the next place. So that's a good example of something that I set as a goal for myself at the beginning of the year. We're coming to the end of the year and I need to finish it up. Did I miss a couple of weeks? Yes, I did. And again, looking forward, I know how many chapters are left. I know how many chapters I need to write each week in order to achieve the goal by the end of the year. What about you? What's a goal that you have set for yourself for the next year? And let's find out if it's measurable. Somebody read one out for me.
10 consulting clients.
One more time.
10 consulting
10.
clients.
10 consulting clients. Okay. So is that does that start this year or this month, or is that a 2026 goal? Like you want to get to 10?
2026 goal.
Okay. And do you have any goals over the next 2 months, or starting today, by next November, you want to have 10?
You know, I would like to by January have my first client,
Okay. Great.
and then by end of second quarter have 5 clients.
Okay. There you go. So 1 client in the next 2 months, 5 clients in the next 8 months. That's a good breakdown. And so that's 6, 7, 8 months. And so in order to, again, get ahead of that trajectory, and I think that's a smart ramp, right? Because you're just getting started in your
Right.
consulting business. And so, it's going to take a little bit of time to get your first client. And so what are the activities that you're doing this month in order to get to 10 consulting clients within the next 12 months?
Well, every day I am making 5 to 10 calls to people in my database, telling them what I do, telling them about these calls. And then I have been doing once a week a sit down lunch with somebody to also further clarify what I'm doing.
Great. All right. So making phone calls, inviting people to have meetings with you virtually, inviting people to have meetings with you in person, and inviting people to join our daily calls. Love
Right.
it. Okay, great. And this is the place where that quote comes in handy, by the way. Your success is a mathematical certainty as long as we understand our equation, right? So you're doing the activities for the equation. Do we know if it's the right conversion rate? We'll find out.
Right.
And so as you start getting conversions, we'll know how many calls it took and how many meetings it took in order to get your first client. At which point you can spell out the next 5 months, right? Like
Right.
you'll know exactly how many calls and appointments you need to make in order to get your next one, and then your next one, and then your next one. So good. Love it. All right. Janae, do you want to go?
Sure. My 1-year goal is to have finished my cloud computing certificate program that I'm in at my local community college. And in order to do that, I would like to earn the certifications within within the program.
Mhm.
So in order to do that, I need a job in order to, actually purchase these certifications
Okay.
and get these tests on. So
Okay.
what I have been doing as of late, instead of applying through Indeed or ZipRecruiter, I've been applying directly through the company's websites. I've been doing cover letters. And instead of applying for 3 jobs a week, I want to up that to 5 so that I increase my chances.
So you're applying to 1 a day. And again, this is one of those interesting things. It kind of takes us back to the Mike conversation. We don't know exactly what the right number is until we get a conversion. Now, the conversion for you, we can break that down into 2 different things. What comes before the job is what? I mean, obviously applications, but after applications, before the job is what? Usually.
Like
interviews, right?
Yeah, right.
And so if if we have a set goal for number of interviews that we're receiving, we can figure out how many applications we need to put in to get the number of interviews. What could be a step before that, by the way, this is a little bit more obscure, but something else if you wanted to add a step in, is how many in-person outreaches. I know a lot of businesses who, because they're getting flooded with resumes, are really looking for not just the resume, but also for somebody to reach out and create a personal touch to let them know that they're interested and that they've submitted their resume. So that could be another step that you add in, apply, and within a few days of applying, if they haven't reached out to you, reach out to them and let them know that you have applied and that you're interested, right?
Absolutely.
And so those could be different things to track and count in your effort to get the job. How many of those do you need to do to get the interview? And then obviously at some point, we'll know how many interviews it took to get the job, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah, love that. We will jump into the take 5 and we'll go off of live. Thank you all for joining us on Facebook, on LinkedIn. If you want to get access to the worksheet, again, bemoredaily.com is a place to register. You'll get a link for all the worksheets, or email me, jeff@bemoreeveryday.com, and I can send those over to you. Tomorrow, we are going to have a little bit more of an open discussion. We're going to be talking about some of these goals. And as part of some of these goals, like what you might need as far as support goes to hit them. And Ted is going to be joining me live to have a conversation surrounding identifying competencies that might be required in order to hit the goals. So we'll talk more about that tomorrow. Thanks all.